Welcome back to the beautiful city of St. Petersburg, Florida, and ESPN's coverage of the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Well, I'm lucky to have two of the finest in the business, former drivers Scott Goodyear and Jill DeFerrin, joining me today in the booth. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Todd. Jill, I'm so excited. A street race here in St. Petersburg, Florida. I raced this track back in 1986 in INDYCAR. I love street racing. These guys will too. A 1.8-mile circuit with 14 turns on board. All of them are different, but the key area for these guys is going to be turns 1, 2, and 3, Jill.
Absolutely, Scott. Turn 1, the best place to overtake. You see Tony Kanaan passing Thomas Scheckter there during practice, but also the best place to get into trouble, especially after the start.
The start's going to be so crucial here for the first lap for these guys. As we see, they're going to head up towards sections 4 through 9A, a very tight section, Joe.
Very tight section. If you get traffic over there, it's very hard to overtake, but it's also very easy to make a mistake. You have lots of blind corners, and if you touch any of those walls, that's probably the race over for you.
And then through turns 10 to kink, that's very, very tight, and now through that section 11, 12 to 14.
The most exciting turn on the racetrack, this chicane there done over 150 miles an hour that leads into the last turn of the racetrack, into the back, into the front straight.
And back up the front stretch again for 170 mile an hour top speed. The key thing here for these drivers though, and Jill, you and I spoke about it, is very different physically for these guys. There's going to be over 30 gear changes every lap out here today, up and down through the gearbox, on and off the brakes, and it's also going to be very, very difficult for them mentally.
I think so, Scott. You go from the 200 mile an hour chess match that we see on the ovals, where you really have to respect your opponent and exercise a lot of self-control, to more like a bare knuckle fight. I mean, it's definitely a contact sport. This is, you're gonna see a lot of adrenaline, a lot of testosterone. You have to be very aggressive to be fast here, and even more aggressive to be able to overtake here.
Well, that aggression is going to have to be somewhat downplayed just a little bit if you want to get to the end of the race, Todd, because certainly these guys have to be there to be able to win.
Well, no question about that, Scott and Jill. Thank you very much. As we get set to go racing, it's time for that famous racing command, and the man doing it this week, IRL founder and CEO, Tony George.
And now, race fans, will you please welcome Tony George for the most famous words in motorsports.
Welcome to the 2005 St. Petersburg Honda Grand Prix. INDYCAR Series drivers, start your engines.
As we get everything squared away, the engines are started, and this is nerve time, gentlemen. One of those situations where you look into this and you really don't know what to expect. You each have talked about this is really going to be somewhat of a street fight, but in watching practice the last few days, anything's possible. Jill, I know you're a little worried about that first turn.
Absolutely. I'm very worried about that first turn. I mean, we hear Tony talking about it. We heard Brian talking about it. It's a funny thing because it's for sure the best place for you to overtake, but it's too inviting. I think everybody's going to arrive there at one time and go from 175 miles an hour down to 45 miles an hour, which is kind of the mid-turn speed you're in. It's, I don't know.
I think the key thing, as Jill's talking about, getting down towards turn 1, that funnel, but it's tight all the way around this race course. We looked at that track map earlier. These guys are going to have patience. They're going to have to settle in. The racing surface here is so bumpy. Any slight mistake, and these guys are going to be into the wall, Todd, and out of the race.
As we take a look at our Honda starting grid as they start to warm up those Firestone Firehawk tires, it'll be key to keep those warm today. They will not be using tire warmers when they come into the pit area, so pits and keeping the tires warm. Brian Barnhart, the president of the IRL, mentioned when you come out of pit row, remember, you've got cold tires. Don't do anything crazy those first 4 or 5 turns, Jill.
Yeah, and the guy who's going to have to worry the most about this is Brian Herta going into that first turn. He did a fantastic job in qualifying. It really surprised a lot of people. He was going okay in practice, but he wasn't the fastest guy. The fastest guy most of the practice was Helio Castroneves, who I must admit I was disappointed with his second. I thought he was going to be on the pole.
Well, certainly a strong run for him. You know, the thing that I'm going to be watching out for, a couple of things, because it's all new to these guys right now. None of these guys have run a full race distance right now on this particular track, and there's going to be a possible brake issue. These guys have to really come up with some type of strategy ahead of time about how much brake cooling to put onto these cars. That might be an issue as these guys continue to run. Fuel mileage, I think, is going to be a point today because these guys are certainly going to want to try and extend their fuel window as it is to take advantage of what I think is going to be quite a few yellows throughout this race.
Well, 3 drivers who may be major factors in this race. There's Brian Herter. He is the pole sitter right now. But 3 guys are going to be chasing it by what we saw in practice and qualifying. One guy, initial, Elio Castroneves, starting second. But I'll tell you what, his last win in Texas in 04, he is extremely hungry. He told me the other night, this is the course that maybe suits him the best. Tony Kanaan, he is the IndyCar Series Ironman, 4,300 consecutive laps. He will be starting third in his all-too familiar 711 car. And his teammate, Dario Franchitti, who came up just short in Phoenix. You got to think this guy, with his last win coming at Pikes Peak in 04, wants the victory that he feels like he maybe just missed out last week in Phoenix. Well, they get the thumbs up from the Delphi safety crew, and that is turn 1. This is the corner that I think a lot of people are waiting to see what happens. Everyone talks about it, and I know you 2 drivers are the same way. Play it safe, play it cool, but when you get the tires warmed up, the engine's fired up, the helmet on, you throw all that good advice out the window, Gilles?
I don't think there's going to be any playing it safe. I think you're going to be somebody way down the inside trying to overtake everyone and then trouble.
Right now, let's check in pit row and Dr. Jerry Punch.
Well, thank you, Todd. This busy weekend, Michael Andretti wearing several hats. That of car owner, racing dad, and event promoter. Now, in the owner category, he co-owns 4 of the fastest cars in the field with Brian Herter, Tony Kanaan, Dario Franchitti, and Dan Weldon. And as a racing dad, well, Michael, a couple of hours ago, your 18-year-old son here standing beside you, Marco, made open-wheel history by winning his first ever Menards Infinity Pro Series event in his very first start. What do you think when you saw him make that daring pass with 10 laps to go?
It was beautiful. You know, I think it was such a smart race, waited for the right opportunity, and it came with the lap car there near the end and took advantage of it. And, you know, he drove like a real professional, somebody that's been driving for many, many years.
Chip off the old block from Dad and then grandfather Mario. Now, I got to ask you in the promoter category, you really went out on a limb here to see this street race come to have life. Why was it such a personal passion for you for this to be such a success?
We just felt that it was very important for open wheel racing, you know, to get back on the streets again and for the IRL. And I think it's a big step, and hopefully it's going to open it up to many, many more events like this around the country.
Congratulations on a successful weekend.
Thank you. I mean, it's just been awesome. You know, everything so far has been perfect. You know, having a pull with Brian in the XM car and, you know, everybody here for this Honda event is just awesome.
Well, Vince, in many ways, the sun has already shined on the Andretti family here today.
Also, Roger Penske, one of the most successful owners in motorsports. One of his drivers, Elio Castroneves, is considered a favorite today, and his other, Sam Hornish Jr., one of the biggest surprises in his first street course race. Roger, what directives did you give your team today? I know in the drivers' meeting they really focused on turn 1 at the start of the race.
Well, I think we're in pretty good shape up here in the first 3 rows, but, you know, this is the first time we've run on this type of track. A lot of people are going to be anxious, but we just have to, you know, mind our way here. I think Elio's had experience. Sam's done a great job getting us where we are today. So I told him the last 50 laps looked a lot different than the first one.
Congratulations on a good qualifying day, and best of luck. Let's go to Jamie Little.
Well, Vince, I'm joined now by Doug Bowles, co-owner for Panther Racing, the winningest team in IndyCar Series history. You guys have a solid team this year with 2 drivers. However, you failed to finish a race yet. What can you do to change things today?
Well, the biggest thing we told our drivers right before here is patience. Patience is really important at this place. We got to conserve our tires, conserve our brakes, and conserve fuel. If they're patient and we're around the end, I think we got a shot. We got great race cars. We didn't qualify where we want to, but we want to be in victory lane partying like rock stars, I hope.
Now your rookie Thomas Enge has been out driving Thomas Scheckter, the veteran. What are we going to see today?
I think you're going to see 2 guys really fast. You got to remember that Thomas Scheckter hasn't been on a road course since 2001. Thomas Enge was in Monza testing last week, so the kid knows road courses, but so is Thomas Scheckter. It's going to be a good race.
Bottom line, it definitely is going to be a good race from the 2 and the 4, guys.
All right, gentlemen, it's time to say keys to the race. Gilles, your thoughts?
Well, I am very, very nervous now, which is funny that, you know, when I was driving, it was not something this time I was calm, but now I'm very, very excited.
The keys to the race here, we're talking starts and restarts like Jill is saying, but watch those pit stops also and the aggression that we spoke about.
Line them up.
As they come down the front straightaway, the green flag is out and we are off and racing. St. Pete's finest have put away the tickets. Street racing is legal. We got a thank Mayor Rick Baker, who did the honors waving the green flag. And it looks like we came through turns 1, 2, and 3 with no incident, Jill.
No problem so far, and Tony being very aggressive there.
Well, call me absolutely surprised as we see Scheckter right now trying to catch up to the front pack, certainly because he was out-qualified by his teammate. But I'll tell you, Jill, I am absolutely surprised.
I'm very surprised.
As they go through that shadow section here in downtown St. Petersburg, as we're coming up on 4 o'clock Eastern time, it is Herta out in front and Tony Kanaan in second. Here comes Elio Castroneves, and behind him it's Dario Franchitti. Brian Herta, number 7, the first place car, followed by 11, his teammate, Tony Kanaan.
Now, these cars are very difficult to drive now, guys, because they're full of fuel, the tires are cold, pressures are down, and for the first 4 or 5 laps, Jill, as you know, very difficult to get these cars around the racetrack without the back end coming up from underneath them.
Yeah, you can see Tony Kanaan getting sideways there into the straight. He was trying to get close to Brian Herta to possibly try to overtake him over there, but so far a very clean first lap, and Brian holding his lead.
Brian Barnhart, the president of the IRL, gave special attention to these first few laps, told them to keep their eye on the big picture, and they are doing just that right now. Tony Kanaan starting to feel a little bit anxious, maybe getting a run on his teammate just in front of him, number 7, that's Brian Herta.
He had a look there on the very first lap of the race, which makes me think that he's very fast into that straight, so we'll see how that develops.
Elio Castroneves right there, number 3. And the team Penske riding behind him is Dario Franchitti, and those 4 right there really have been the class of the field. But here comes Thomas Enke, a guy you really like, Scott, coming into view in number 2 car.
Well, he was my pick, certainly, because he's just tested very well, especially at Homestead. I was very impressed with the road course test that he did there. A lot of experience with his cars on road courses. That's why I picked him. But right now, these guys are just getting settled into a pace. That's the key corner right here, guys. Get the power down. Get down this straightaway. 170 miles an hour down this front stretch.
He's putting a lot of pressure on Dario Franchitti there.
So it remains Herta, Kanaan, Castroneves, Franchitti, and Thomas Enke, your top 5 here at the St. Petersburg Grand Prix, brought to you by Honda, and we have a picture-perfect day. I don't know if Mayor Rick Baker ordered this up, but it could not be any nicer. The temperature's, Jill, perfect, a slight wind, the drivers love it.
And here goes Tony Kanaan having another look at that same turn 4 in the end of the back straight. You know, since Scott told his pick, I think it's about time I tell my pick. My pick for the race is Elio Castroneves.
Elio Castroneves right now, number 3, sitting in 3rd place behind Brian Herta and Tony Kanaan as they come through. There's Castroneves, the red and white 3 Penske car, and just behind him is Dario Franchitti, who I think is going to do quite well today.
I thought you were going to stay on the fence there for a while.
Guys, we're watching this race unfold. We actually just got word already that Petersburg has a sticking throttle. And Jill, if there's any racetrack that you don't want to have that problem at, boy, it has to be the first street course here.
And he had that same problem on Friday practice with making him lose most of the day on Friday.
Patrick Carpentier currently running in 3rd place, and as Jill pointed out, the same problem, but he looks so good in fighting that car. Brian Herta said at the top of the show how you really have to muscle the car around the course, and Carpentier has done that. And here we go on the left-hand side. That is Tony Kanaan thinking about making a run as he just showed his teammate a wheel there, Jill, just to give him an idea. But when he does that, number 3, Elio Castroneves comes right inside of him.
He's always on that turn. I think he's obviously very, very good going into that straight, and every time he has a quick look at it, sooner or later, we might see an overtaking maneuver happening over there.
I don't know if he made a mistake right there or not, Jill. Brian Herta is starting to pull away as they come through this little chicane area.
Nice. That's the way it goes. When the guy accelerates out of the corner, it's very, very easy for the guy in front to pull away.
Riding along with Tony Kanaan. Scott, what are you seeing?
Right now, watch how he's working this wheel. That we have a situation right now where the whole thing is that you've got to really work that wheel to get through the turn and then use the gears all the way up through the gearbox.
Well, Jill, they've apparently listened at the drivers' meeting. I won't say for the first time, but I think they took Brian Barnhart's words right to their melons because they are driving clean and letting the course come to them.
Absolutely, sure they did, and they absolutely proved me wrong as well because I was 90% sure that something was going to happen on that first turn. But, you know, they showed their professionalism and their control and self-restraint and got through it okay.
But it's early.
It is early,
as you know, it's early.
Well said, Scott.
Well, Brian Herta, no stranger to being out front. This is his 10th IndyCar Series race that he has led in his career. Back-to-back poles. He's got to be doing something right. We've talked about the Andretti Green Team. Will they be able to coexist because they have so much talent on there with Herta, Kanaan, Weldon, check in with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Guys, in the final run-up this morning, Brian Hurtis finished third of the 30 minutes, sitting here on pit road, making major changes in that XM satellite machine. They changed the springs and changed the toe in the front of the car because it was very, very loose and skittering around the racetrack. I hope we have guessed right. And obviously, in the first 6 laps, they have guessed exactly right. The car is flawless.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Punch. 6 laps completed of 100 here at the Honda St. Petersburg Grand Prix. Right now, we'll step aside, take a break, take you side by side only on ESPN. Welcome back to the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, the 1.8-mile street course, and there are your leaders with 8 laps complete. Brian Herta, the man who had the pole, has maintained that position. Tony Kanaan in second, Elio Castroneves in third, and Dario Franchitti and Thomas Enget. It has been a clean race thus far, something many people, including my partner Gilles Defer, did not think would happen, but 8 laps in, and so far so good as we look at the start one more time, Scott.
You see Castroneves coming right, actually in front of Tony Kanaan, trying to take that position around. Then he thinks, I got enough grip, I'm going to go around the outside of Brian Herta, but he doesn't make it.
Almost losing his position to Tony Kanaan, who was already diving into the inside.
Well, he did indeed lose his position to Tony Kanaan because he got totally sideways there coming off the turn. But, you know, it was a good chance to take. I would have tried the same thing if I was him.
So it maintains Herta, Kanaan, Castroneves, Franchitti, and Thomas Engie, your top 5. Thomas Scheckter checks in at 6, so the Chevrolets right now running 5th and 6th.
That's the area where Tony Kanaan seems to get really close to Brian Herta a few laps ago. And it looks like he's attacking again.
But you know, Jill, when you come to a racetrack like this, you think about it and you go, where can the guy pass me? If I can make my car faster than everybody else in the sections where he can possibly pass, I'm going to be able to stay ahead. In this tight stuff, as you know, it's almost impossible to get past the guy unless the guy in front makes a mistake.
I think one of the things that Tony did is he's already shown his hand. He's already shown to Brian Herta, where can I overtake him? And Brian obviously can make amends to his driving side to prevent that.
There's number 16 Penske, Sam Hornish Jr. Now, he's competed on only 4 temporary street courses, and I know a lot of people coming here said, you know, Sam Hornish, there's no way he's going to run here, but I think he gave himself a lot of credibility the way he qualified yesterday.
You know, I asked him this morning at the driver's meeting, I said, boy, you surprised everybody. He just had this grin on his face, and, you know, it was a grin of satisfaction because everybody said this will be a place where he will not shine. But I'll turn around and tell you something. He is as competitive as they come. He wants to run up front, and I think he won't win today, but he's certainly going to be up in the top section.
Bottom line, Gilles, Sam Hornish is just a tremendous driver.
I think so. To me, that tells me 2 things. One, he's got a lot of untapped potential in road racing. Really tells me that he's got a long way to go until he gets to his top. And the second thing is he's got a lot of nerve. I mean, what he produced yesterday in qualifying was absolutely incredible and stuff of a true champion.
Let's check in with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Exactly, Gilles Defer. And guys, you know, Sam Hornish talked about the fact it's most embarrassing when your teammate, although you got one of the best teammates, if not the best teammate in the business, Elio Castroneves, is the fastest car in practice, and you're back about 15 spots. But Elio's team helped his team. That's what Team Penske does. They help each other, and using Castroneves' setup to help Hornish, but he had to go out and put the car in the field himself. So a great effort by Hornish, but a great team effort by using the Castroneves setup to get Sam comfortable in qualifying.
Thank you, Doc. 2 words, Penske perfect. We would like to thank our broadcast partners, Honda, Firestone, XM Satellite Radio, Warner Brothers Batman Begins, and ONDCP for their support of ESPN's side-by-side coverage of today's race. So it maintains Brian Herta, Tony Kanaan, Elio Castroneves, Dario Franchitti, and Thomas Enget out in front. Those 5 are running the strongest.
Absolutely, and the guy who was impressing me the most there in that group is Thomas Enget, who is keeping the pressure on Dario Franchitti, and Dario is the meat in the sandwich. I mean, if he makes one mistake, Thomas Enget will be by.
The yellow 4, that is Thomas Scheckter. That is Thomas Enget's teammate, the Rockstar car, which is currently running in 5th place. So Scheckter keeping pace. And I know we talked about this a lot about Scheckter as we go on board with Dario Franchitti, the RKX 27 car. Can Thomas Scheckter keep the car in one piece for 100 laps?
Let's hope so.
You guys both looked at me like,
You know, that lets us sum up very easily. Those guys spent a lot of money last year on repairing race cars with their drivers. They've already done it so far this year a little bit. These guys have to finish races, and I can tell you, as a previous driver, owners will say, we have to finish today, guys, for the sponsors, got to keep the wheels on it.
To me, Thomas is a little bit of an enigma. He's for sure a fast driver, He's the nicest guy you can possibly meet. When he puts the helmet on, something happens, and he turns into this, I don't know what.
He seems to be a creature of bad breaks, because you think of 2 or 3 key breaks got going his way, and it's a whole different story.
You certainly hit that right on the head. Certainly he's had opportunities to win more races than he has. He's got 1 win at Michigan so far, which was very dominant, by the way, when I recall it. But I'll tell you right now, as we're watching Alex Barron do a nice job, the key thing is you have to be fast and aggressive as we're riding along now with Alex Barron. Right through that fast king, flat out, Jill. I just always get sort of nervous with that. But the key thing right now is to touch on the finish on the checker, finish the race today, guys.
Alex Barron, Red Bull Achiever, a very talented driver. Another one who I think is nothing but upside. There you see the 51 Red Bull Achiever car going around. This is the 16 Pioneer Argent car of Danica Patrick, the only female in our group, currently running 15th. And she's about 15 seconds off the pace. But Jill, she comes into this from the Atlantic Series, which is similar to this in street racing, but the cars are about 300 pounds, 400 pounds heavier, and 400 more horsepower on the INDYCAR Series side.
I spoke to her Friday afternoon, and she's still getting acclimatized, and I think she's doing a great job over there. I mean, she's putting the pressure on Alex Barron. She's in front of Darren Manning, a very accomplished racer, and she made 2 places from the start.
Let's check in with Vince Welch. Vince.
Well, Danica Patrick says every car is different, and that's why this car is indeed different than the one she drove in Atlantic. But as far as her car at this point is concerned, a little bit of understeer, but keeping pace with the cars in front of her, just settling in, and we've got an incident. Let's go upstairs.
Oh my, an incident right in that corner. Unfortunately, it looks like it's the 3 car of Elio Castroneves, and AJ Foyt the 4th. And Foyt is going to creep back on the track. And I don't know if that's such a great idea to come in on that inside lane. Well, he's going to stay in the grass there.
He's not going very far anyways. He's got a broken right rear suspension. But, you know, we talked about tightness on the race course right now. The key thing, both cars trying to use the same piece of real estate. Foyt was off the pace, guys, you know, and it's very difficult to pass, Joe, as you know.
Yeah, he was a back marker, and you could see that the whole situation developing a little bit. It was 2 cars don't fit in the same room. I think, you know, it's one of those things, I suppose.
Here we go one more time. Elio Castroneves is the 3 Penske car. He goes to the inside, and whether or not AJ Foyt the 4th saw him coming or if Elio pushed the issue just a little bit. But
he saw him coming. He know exactly he was there. I mean, AJ had a tough weekend. He was a bit off the pace. If I was him, he should have left off the throttle way before that turn.
A classic example of a driver that does not have experience on a road course, and Elio Castroneves has always been very, very quick. But AJ, I asked him the other day, he says, I just want the boy to go out there and get experience in this race course. I've got to start somewhere.
Grandpa Foyt giving strong words there. AJ, as you guys pointed out, had his problems this weekend. On Friday, taking it into a tire wall, and then today, earlier in practice, having his problems. And that man, Roger Penske, is not going to be happy because one of his cars is now out of the race.
And we've gone to a full course yellow right now, so that means we're going to probably have some pit stops, Jill. You and I spoke about that, and we thought if it's anywhere around lap 10 to 15, teams will probably take advantage of this, and I think there was a bit of a fuel run going on anyways.
Absolutely. It'd be interesting for me to see if the front guys are going to stop or the back guys are going to stop.
We are under caution right now. Brian Herta is your lead of the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Will continue after this message from your local cable operators. Welcome back to beautiful St. Petersburg, Florida. As we are under caution right now, Brian Herta maintains his lead with 15 laps complete. He had the pole come in today. Tony Kanaan is in second. Dario Franchitti, teammate, is in third. And moments ago, it was Elio Castroneves, I won't say who, but someone in this booth really liked his chances of winning today. I'll include myself in that because I really thought Elio had it going on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, it was a real shame.
Elio Castroneves makes the long walk back. Now, Scott, watch this. There's Elio on the right-hand side, the 3 car.
In the Marlboro car, coming right on the inside. You can see makes contact right away with the left front of the 14 car of AJ Foyt the 4th. You know, and I'm sure Elio thought, man, he's giving me room because he's left this big hole for me. Watch as he moves along here. Going, and he says, got to see me. He must know that I'm there. He gets even on the curb just a little bit. Not enough room to let him go through without taking him out.
The problem is that was at 150 miles an hour. And when you're in that situation there where you got guys behind you, guys in front of you, you're under pressure also to make that overtaking maneuver. And that was my pick walking back to the pits.
Gilles is a great pick because 92% of the time this guy is going to finish the race. So that is a very solid pick. You know, the most fortunate man, though, right there, may be Dario Franchitti. as he was sitting right behind that incident, and fortunate for him that the incident went off to the right-hand side and he was able to skate by on the left.
Absolutely. I mean, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. I mean, if Elliott didn't go for the overtaking maneuver, that was Dario down his inside and past him.
All right, this takes us to our next very critical element here. We've gotten past the right turn thing. Now the pit stops. They come in, talking to Tim Cindrich of Team Penske. He said pits are maybe going to be everything. Pits and track position will tell the tale.
It looks to me like everybody's coming in because all the pits guys are ready.
The pits are open. Let's check in with Jamie Little.
Guys, all is happy on the Panther front. Between Thomas Zenga and Thomas Scheckter, they've gained 6 positions, guys. Actually, Thomas Scheckter overtook him. As you see, it's just fuel and tires. All happy. Vince?
Brian Herta, the leader. Only change is that he requested more grip in the rear. So far, a clean stop, and Herta gets away nicely.
And guys, here's the race off pit road. Herta and Scheckter will win it. It looked like Scheckter and Herta were nose to nose as they came across. It was Scheckter, Herta, Franchitti. Scheckter got him by about 7 inches at the lines. It was Scheckter, Herta, Franchitti in that order, guys.
Well, there you see it at pit exit. Nice job down in the pits as it's very frenetic pace as they came in all at the same time. Clean pits for everyone. Now they'll scuff up the tires, get them heated up one more time, and it's almost like starting back over again, Jill.
The biggest loser in the pit lane race was Tony Kanaan. Dropped a lot of places.
You know, that was a little bit deceiving because as you saw both cars coming down the pit lane, ready to take that right-hand turn out of pit lane back onto the racetrack. It looked like Herta actually had the advantage, but there is a timeline on the end of the pit lane, and whatever car reaches there first will be the car that actually is going to take the lead. Now, they've turned these things back around from what they had on the original scoring, showing Scheckter first, so we'll have to see if they're going to go ahead and leave it as it is.
Well, not everyone pitted, so that will certainly play into it. Someone's going to be out of sequence, and it might come down just to that. As we go on board with Tony Kanaan, Gilles, you talked about it, not the best pit stop for him.
Yeah, let's see what happens here. They plugged in the fuel. This side got some trouble apparently plugging in. They're very sloppy coming out. There you go. And also he runs over the air gun for the tires. That's going to be very costly for him.
Not characteristic of an Andretti Green pit stop. Usually Tony Kanaan is picture perfect as they come on through. As they come down the front straightaway here at St. Petersburg, the temperature is right. And right now out in front, it looks like that's Ed Carpenter's car, but he is a lap down.
Well, the race is going to change quite a bit because the guys in the back actually didn't stop. So Ryan Briscoe is shown as P1 here on the restart, and they were not going that fast early in the race.
Well, Briscoe, Barron, Patrick, Manning, and Rice did not pit. Here's Thomas Schechter's pit, and look at this. This is the exit.
So he's carrying the speed, and you know Herta knows he's there. Those guys are rubbing, guys. And you see, just went over that line, and Schechter's car went over the line ahead of Herta's.
Let's check in with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Well, guys, Tim Cindrich is the president of Penske Racing, and he runs the pits for Helio Castroneves. And Tim, from your vantage point, what did you see happen out there, and how bad's the car?
Obviously, the car is looks like it's parked for the day, which is unfortunate because I think we had a great chance at winning this. Marlboro Team Penske was really prepared. In terms of the incident, it looked like lack of experience showed there on the behalf of maybe AJ there. I think AJ, he just didn't see him or didn't know that he was going to actually try and make that attempt. And there wasn't room for 2 cars at that point in time. He's a good guy, but he needs a bit more time under his belt.
I know you lost radio contact with Helio when the contact happened, so you haven't spoken with him, but will you try to repair the car and get it back out if you can?
Absolutely. It would be everything for us to try and get the car back out there today because there's going to be a bit of attrition, but for us really what controls that is getting the car back to the garage area, and I'm not sure if we can do that or not.
All right, Tim Cindrich, one of the pre-race favorites, Helio Castroneves, walking back to the garage, and the car is yet to arrive back here. Guys?
All right, thank you, Dr. Punch. And if any team can put it together quick enough to get him out there, I got to put my money on Team Penske.
Well, I think maybe even a race last year at Richmond where they might have done the same thing, I think recalls my mind. But the key thing right now for everybody that's out there, fuel mileage so they can maybe do this race in only one more stop. And I think, Jill, that's probably going to be the key for all those guys that are capable of running fast.
Yeah, it doesn't look to me like they'll be able to do it only one more stop. I guess it will depends on the number of yellows that we get throughout the race, but it's a very early first stop, you have to say.
So of those who did pit, Thomas Scheckter sits currently in 6th place. As you see Schechter there, right there, the number 4 Pennzoil car going by, and he currently sits in 6th. We mentioned Ryan Briscoe is your leader, and moments ago, Brian Herta, as we go on board with him, watch this.
Now that coming out of the right-hand side of his car right now is the smoke that's coming out, and you see that coming even in the pit lane when they were doing that pit stop. I noticed that, and I didn't know if it was coming off maybe oil being dropped on the exhaust, but right now that might turn into being a problem.
I can't tell you exactly what that is. It's very intriguing, that smoke. It could be from when the guys are running under yellow, they change the fuel map, I guess you can say it, and the engine tends to misfire and accumulate oil and stuff like that. So it could be that, or it could be a bigger problem.
Well, there you see the double yellow flags, and as we have learned this weekend as our first foray here at the street racing, that will be a local yellow flag, meaning that you're relatively safe in that corner, no debris on the track, but they want you to slow down as we check in one more time with Vince Welch.
Well, Alex Barron is reporting that his engine sounds a bit funny, so keep an eye on that situation. But Barron stayed out. He did not pit, so currently he's in the 2nd spot. Patrick Carpentier, who did come in for his fuel load, running 2 different pit strategies, obviously. So Alex Barron and Patrick Carpentier, keep an eye on both of those drivers. Now we're going to visit with AJ Foyt. AJ's grandson Anthony was just involved in an incident with Helio Castroneves. You were communicating with Anthony on the radio to let him know that Helio was coming.
I told him the leaders are coming. Our whole principle today was just get some experience. I said, move over, they're coming. And I guess Castroneves just got in the corner and he thought, and they connected. I guess that's racing. There's nothing you can do about it, you know, and just one of them freak accidents, because Castroneves is a smarter race driver than that. And, you know, Anthony was trying to move over all he could, and just racing. That's all you can say.
Unfortunate incident. Thank you, AJ. Guys?
Well, I'll tell you what, AJ the 4th may hear something maybe a little more animated than that Vince Welch just got from AJ.
I'll tell you what's on my mind right now as I look at this field coming past the screen here is what is going to happen.
Well, here we go.
Carpenter. Now, this is the problem that Brian Barnhart, the president of the IRL, talked about. They do not want this to happen. He is basically sitting right in the middle of the course, so they're going to have to basically bring these guys down to a complete slowdown with the yellow. This will not be a local yellow. This is a full course yellow as we watch. This is Ed Carpenter, number 20, coming around one more time.
Well, he got the wave around because he was actually in front of Ryan Briscoe. He was a lap back. So what he ended up doing was get that wave around, and he was trying to catch back up to the back of the field before the restart, and just got a little bit too hot coming out of that. And that's oversteer, guys. That's where the back end of the car swaps around and chases the front, and he's dead stick, as they call it right now.
I got to tell you, that's embarrassing.
Actually, here we go right now.
Okay, so this has set off somewhat of a chain reaction as they have slowed down possibly too much as we had a closer view, and unfortunately that is Roger Yasukawa, number 24 in front, and Thomas Enge, number 2, and he's just saying push him off, push him off. He's still got the engine running. Enge was currently running on that first before the pit. He was running in 5th place, a very strong 5th.
Doesn't look like there's any damage there.
No, lucky for Enge, but I think what happened with Roger was that he probably saw that yellow and knew there was something there, slowed down, and Enge, with all his experience, turned around, tried to carry more speed through the turn.
Let's set it down to Vince Welch.
With Helio Castroneves, and Helio just spoke with Jake White. They were giving Anthony word that you were coming and trying to get him to move over. Maybe he was giving you enough room, or was he not?
It's when I saw everybody going through, I went through as well. When I noticed I was right in the middle of the corner, and we were like side by side, I back off. I said, that's not going to make it happen. And then it's one of those things, race incident. I'm sure he was trying to give me a room. It was just a shame.
You feel like maybe you ended up pinching him a little bit?
I might anticipate a little bit. Like when I saw everybody's coming, I said, hey, that's going to be. When I got in the middle, too bad. But let's keep going.
Helio Castroneves.
Well, such a solid attitude. Helio Castroneves, one of the nicest guys in the IndyCar series, and unfortunately, he's had a very rough weekend, and the guy that's normally smiling has had a very hard weekend with the passing of the Pope. Helio had an opportunity to visit with him, actually have a visit with the Pope earlier this year, and he talked about what an emotional experience that was.
That was incredible. To meet somebody, I mean, so pure, and an image that for us Catholic really have something in our mind. it was remarkable, you know, have that chance to talk about the religions in my sport. First of all, that was something incredible, difficult actually to put in words, but no doubt about, I would say it was a great Christmas gift, and I'll never forget that moment.
So Helio Castroneves, his weekend just got a little tougher. He is done unless they can get that car repaired and get him back on the course with 21 laps complete here at the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, as we check in one more time with Dr. Jerry Punch.
And guys, this is the crest of Pope John Paul II. And this morning, prior to the race, Helio Castroneves had this decal placed on the back of his helmet to be able to show the honor and memory of that special visit he had with the Holy Father on December 17th. This crest rode along today with Helio Castroneves. Guys?
And unfortunately, that crest came in way too soon. An unfortunate incident for Helio Castroneves. Well, the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg will continue after this message from your local cable operators. Ryan Briscoe leads. Welcome back to ESPN's coverage of the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Gilles DeFer, Scott Goodyear, Vince Welch, Jerry Punch, and Jamie Little as they bring it down the front straightaway. Helio Castroneves and A.J. Foyt, the fourth, are not in the field right now, so our 21 field is down to 19. Ryan Briscoe, the young man from Australia, the number 33 Target Chip Ganassi car, is your leader. But we remind you, he did not pit. And Gilles, a lot of strategy is coming to play now with these guys pitting out of sequence. But for Ryan Briscoe, this has really been his Waterloo as they come under the Honda bridge. Earlier in the week, during practice and qualifying, Ryan Briscoe once again had an incident back on Friday, and here it was.
Run wide coming out of turn 2, hit the wall on one side, hit the wall on the other side, got no brake, no steering wheel, and that's one destroyed INDYCAR. And a bit sore rookie, probably.
Yeah, no question about that. I'm sure Chip Ganassi not thrilled about having to pick up the tab on that one. Scott running, what, about $500,000?
Well, you know, it gets up there. Those front nose cones are about 20 or 25,000. You start adding those corners on, but you know, it's also the pride of a driver coming onto a team that's won the championship before. You want to do well, and you know, Chip's also released some drivers mid-season, so he's probably got to get himself up there and start to finish a little bit. Don't you think, Jill? Or else maybe he'll be looking for a ride.
Yeah, just really what he didn't need. He needed to build up confidence, and here is Danica Patrick running third on the restart. I tell you, this restart is going to be really interesting because the fast guys are just behind this line of let me see, Thomas Schechter is starting 6th, and he was the first guy that came into the pits on the first run. So this is going to be really interesting. I don't know whether they're going to attack or not attack, and what kind of pace this front people are going to run.
Well, we will see the green flag as they come around this next time. Ryan Briscoe bringing up. Well, what they got to do now is they're trying to get Ed Carpenter. He is way off the back, came in, got restarted, and they're going to try to bring him back up, bunch him up one more time, so they'll bring him around one more time. Flagger telling him, get in line, get in order. Ryan Briscoe is your leader as we check in with Jamie Little.
And Ryan Briscoe, certainly a new name and new face to the IndyCar Series. Chip, I know you had a little talk with Ryan on Friday after that miscue and little bit of a crash. What did you tell him?
Well, you know, I just told him, you know, a lot of times you get to a new series like this, you're under a lot of pressure. I wanted to make sure he wasn't feeling any pressure. And, you know, it's a learning experience that if you've been watching the races, you've seen we've been going through a little bit. So he can handle it.
He struggles on the ovals a bit. How's he feeling today?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I know he struggles on the ovals a bit. How's he feeling today?
I think pretty good, you know. We'll see. I mean, he's at the front of the field now, and there are a lot of different strategies you can play out. This is one of them. We'll see what he does with it.
Well, guys, he has over 12,000 road racing miles as an F1 Toyota test driver. He certainly has the experience. Let's see if he could keep it together.
Top 3, Briscoe, Barron, and Patrick. And a quick reminder, ESPN2's coverage of the Major League Baseball regular season starts off with a big bang Sunday night with one of the greatest rivalries in the game as Manny Ramirez, David Ortiz, and the Boston Red Sox begin their defense of their championship while Randy Johnson takes the mound for a reloaded New York Yankees team itching for another crown. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern with Baseball Tonight on the road, driven by GMC. And for more information, log on to ESPN.com. And Tony Kanaan has got Scott Sharp just in front of him. How did Tony Kanaan get back to 16th, Jill?
Well, bad pit stop on a yellow. That's what it does for you. But let's see this restart here with everybody on cold tires. And I'm curious again to see what's going to happen.
Green flag.
The green flag is out.
Good start by Danica. She's straight past Alex Barron, running second.
So it's Ryan Briscoe in front, the number 33 Target Chip Ganassi car. Danica Patrick now sits in second place, and Alex Barron drops back to third.
Everybody's really well behaved so far today.
You know, she did that perfectly, Jill, as you mentioned, because she got the accelerator coming out of that last turn and carried the speed down the straight. Look at this, we're trying to make it out pretty wide. Buddy's looking up front right now, sliding on the inside. A very difficult place to pass because there's a lot of patches on this racetrack right now, cement patches and pavement changes, and that's really going offline.
You know what impressed me about Buddy Rice and talking to him this week is you see number 10, Darren Manning, go by. He knows that he doesn't have a lot of experience on road coursing. He seems like he's going to let the race come to him and be patient. I know we talk about the drivers, you guys in particular. Once you get the helmet on, the patience goes out the window. But Buddy Rice has done a fantastic job, and maybe that's because Jilly's had 2 DNFs this year.
Good clean maneuver there by Buddy Rice, but the person who's impressing me the most right now is Danica Patrick. She's putting a lot of pressure on Ryan Briscoe there. She's right on him. Let's see what happens on this straight here.
Ryan Briscoe, sorry, go ahead.
You know exactly what she's thinking right now is that I might have an opportunity to lead my first race in my very first season in INDYCAR Series.
There's the battle for first. 33 is Ryan Briscoe. Number 16 is Danica Patrick. They are going 1 and 2 right now. We remind you, though, they have yet to pit thus far. But guys, with all the yellows out there, this may really play into their factor.
It may be. It may be that they can get to the end with only one more stop. And Scott and I were talking about this during the break. It's a definite possibility if we continue to get lots of yellows.
Let's check in with Vince Welch.
After Danica Patrick made that pass of Alex Barron, they came on the radio to her and told her, great job. Now just focus for 15 more laps of hard running, 15 more laps of hard running, and then we'll bring you in for fuel. Let's go to Dr. Jerry Punch.
As Tony Kanaan did not have a bad pit stop, but they made a mistake. He ran over the air gun leaving pit road and was penalized to the back of the pack, and that's the reason. Whoa! He nearly got the front of the car taken off a moment ago, but Tony Kanaan penalized all the way at the back.
All right, so in turn 10, Tony Kanaan almost gets the front end taken off, and give him credit for being such a great driver, knowing to back it down a little bit. He's living to fight another day.
And that's the thing about overtaking in a street circuit. You either go all the way or you go all the way back out. Here's Tony, goes all the way, thinks I can make it, maybe, oh, I can't, bang, you know, into the inside. Those curves are really high. They send the car up. He was lucky not to lose his front wing or his right front suspension.
55 was Koski Matsura, the man that almost came across his right side. So we are back to racing. There's Koski Matsura on the right-hand side of your screen, the Panasonic 55. There's the 711 car, the 11 of Tony Kanaan right now. And Kanaan, you can tell he wants to move up, currently sitting in 12th place.
You know, a lot of experience we obviously know that Kanaan has, but Koski Matsura, I mean, has a fair amount of road course experience also. He's got an F3 experience, he's got the Formula 1 experience, and he also had tested the bar Formula 1 car a little while ago, so he knows his way around a road course.
Ryan Briscoe, number 33 from Australia, continues to lead. The question is, can he hang on with Danica Patrick right behind him? It's Briscoe, Patrick, and Buddy Rice going 1, 2, and 3. You'll see it all as we step aside momentarily, but you watch the racing as we go side by side. You are looking at your leader, number 33. That is Ryan Briscoe on the Target Chip Ganassi team. He is in first place at the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, being followed by Danica Patrick and her teammate, Buddy Rice. That's the top 3 men. Gentlemen, I got to be very impressed, as Jill pointed out, with Danica Patrick to be staying ahead of Buddy Rice, the defending Indy 500 champion, and running with a guy who has so much experience like Ryan Briscoe.
Well, Ryan now has found his rhythm and is pulling away from Danica Patrick. Danica, right after the restart, he was putting him under a lot of pressure. But I think Ryan now settled down and he got in the rhythm and is slowly pulling away about half a second a lap, and he's now 3.3 seconds up the road.
Scott, we crack out the abacus quickly. Can this group that did not pit in the first session, can they do it on one more pit stop?
Well, that would be a tough one. They got to come in and refuel here probably in about 10 laps, and that might be a difficult situation to make that fuel load good to all the race distance. So expect probably to, both these guys right now are within about 10 laps of coming in. Briscoe's probably on the same situation. Briscoe's running a Toyota. These guys are in Hondas, both Danica Patrick and Buddy Rice. But interesting to note right now, we saw how Briscoe struggled this weekend to go fast, but right now he's running over 100 miles an hour average speed, very, very strong. And the real fast guy, which was Thomas Scheckter before, is down around 99. So it's very difficult to pass on a road course and a street course if you're not up the front to stay up there.
And Thomas Scheckter is basically stuck behind Darren Manning. He can't really go any faster until he gets past Darren Manning.
Ryan Briscoe, number 33, started 10th, currently running first. The young man out of Sydney, Australia, currently residing in Indianapolis, Indiana. 2003, he won the Formula 2 Euro Series Championship, and in 2001, he won the Italian Formula Renault 2000 Championship. So here's a kid who comes in with a lot of road racing experience, and Chip Ganassi told Jamie Little he just needs a little confidence, and you will be amazed at what this kid can do.
You can definitely tell he's pushing very, very hard. You can see the back end stepping out, coming out of every turn. He's braking as deep as he can. Sometimes you can see the right front wheel, the left inside front wheel locking up just a little bit. So he's trying to gain some distance there between himself and Danica before that stop. I used to love driving on this type of racetrack. It's a different type of driving than we see on an oval. It's a lot of reflex driving, and you move the steering wheel left and right. The adrenaline is pumping through your body, and it's really a pleasure to do it. It used to be one of my most favorite things to come to one of these racetracks.
Joe, you used a term just a few minutes ago. It's the rhythm, and it really is. Even though there's 14 different turns here, you get into a rhythm. Once you get through one turn, you then concentrate onto the next turn, and so forth all the way through. And you know, finding that ultimate braking spot, that ultimate turning spot, but you know, somehow you record all that somewhere in your mind, and you can actually do that 14 different ways around all these different turns.
You know, one of the things we haven't spoken too much about, Scott, since the race started is the fatigue factor. And I think that's definitely going to play in some later on in the race.
Give you a quick race summary. Your leader right now at the inaugural running of the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg is that man, number 33, Ryan Briscoe. On the target, Chip Ganassi. He has led for 16 laps, but he has yet to come in for a pit stop. But we had a great start as things got underway here in St. Petersburg on a picture-perfect day as the INDYCAR Series made their first right-hand turn, and everyone held their breath as Mayor Rick Baker waved the green flag. They came into turn number 1, and all was clear. No incidents until AJ Foyt and Elio Castroneves got together in this corner. Both men knocked out of the race, yet to return. And then Tony Kanaan on the inside, almost taking his front end off. Koski Matsura coming over, but Tony Kanaan using his talent to stay away from that injury. Well, Ryan Briscoe continues to lead. And we want to take this opportunity to thank our broadcast partners, K&N Filters, Pennzoil, Quaker State, Toyota 20th Century Fox, Sideways, and P&G Thermacare for their support of ESPN's side-by-side coverage of today's race.
It looks to me like Buddy Rice is putting Danica Patrick under some pressure here. He's getting closer and closer to her ever since he passed Alex Barrow, who's falling down the order now.
I tell you what, I just like the way Buddy Rice is running right now, the position he has. He's running third and he has yet to pit, but he is just getting more and more experience. Lap time, we talked about surviving the first 70 or 80 laps and getting a good run and putting yourself in a good track position for the last 20.
Absolutely, these top 5 cars, we're watching these Buddy Rice and these guys go through right now. The top 5 have not pitted, so the key thing for them, if a yellow were to come out, this would save these guys from getting behind in the whole group in the queue.
Let's jump back to Alex Barron. He is in 5th place right now.
Let's ride along here for a second. Listen, go through the gears.
4th, flat out, a little lift. Down 2 gears to 2nd gear into the straight. 2nd, whoops, oversteer, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and at the end of the straight down to 2nd gear. That was a really great, watch this now, 1, 2, 3, 4 downshifts into 2nd gear. A little bit of power, 3rd gear, a little lift, back on the gas again.
Well, gentlemen, this gives you a great idea of just how physical. Brian Herta talked about at the top of the show, muscling the car around, and I'll tell you, if I have to pick 2 of the most fit drivers out there, I'm going with Alex Barron and Scott Sharp. The Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg continues. We have completed 34 laps. Ryan Briscoe is your leader, but can he hang on? You'll see it all as we go side by side. Welcome back to ESPN's coverage of the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. You saw it all side by side. An incident on the course. Ed Carpenter, number 20 in the Vision car, went sideways. They went to a local yellow, which means the pits were still open. And Gilles, you love the strategy of Ryan Briscoe, Danica Patrick, and Buddy Rice. They came in because under local yellow, the pits do not close down. Now we have gone under a full yellow because they can't get Carpenter out of the way. Too dangerous. Brian Barnhart says, no way. Darren Manning, now your leader.
Well, I tell you, I think that was a very smart move by the guys who did come in. They took advantage. They probably guessed that the track was going to go full course yellow and took advantage pit, and they're going to go all the way back to the front, I think.
Ed Carpenter, this is the reason why we went into the local yellow.
Carrying just a little bit too much
is that
speed
the same
going
corner?
through the turn, same turn, carrying a bit too much speed. Now remember, we're in the streets, guys, so there's a crown in the road, and when the car goes over to the crown on the top of the road, it actually lightens the car, and the thing spins itself out.
And they couldn't get him out of the way.
Now, Gilles, like a pit stop, could he light the tires up right now and fishtail it around?
If the engine was on, that's what he would do. You know how those guys do the donuts after when they win the race? He would do a donut there to get out of that situation.
So obviously he didn't depress the clutch quick enough to keep the engine from dying.
I think that's why he's what we call a left foot braker. So he uses the left foot to brake, and so he doesn't have it to press the clutch.
And that flag you see waving right there is an indication to all the drivers that the pit lane is closed right now, so they know not to come in.
Well, what a show for the more than 70,000 people who have turned out for the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Our thanks to Mayor Rick Baker and all the people who have done this. You know, we all commented when we got here earlier in the week what a fabulous setup it was. The city has really been welcoming to all of us, worked with us, cooperated with us, and look at the turnout. We have got a fantastic crowd, and not to throw them under the bus, but wait till we get to May. Memorial Day week.
Happened in your mind?
Just a real shame for the Delphi Fernandez team. You know, we really were looking to just get some solid points. You know, my spotter told me that Dario got underneath me. I gave him room, and you know, we were really almost coming out of the corner at that stage, and all of a sudden, I don't know if he slid up into me or what, but all of a sudden I just felt this hit, you know, on my right rear tire, and up in the air I went and spun around.
How about the track and the racing in general?
You know, it's pretty good. Obviously, all street circuits are tight, but I think the track's got some good grip to it, and we're all just really just settling in.
Long way to go yet, just under half the distance remaining. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, that was a very good angle. And I think Scott is right. I think Dario did slide into him as soon as he touched those curbs.
That is Dario Franchitti, number 27, currently running in third place. So he got around Scott Dixon quicker than we thought. Right now it's Andretti Green, 1, 2, and 3. Take us through it, Gilles.
Wow, here he goes down the inside. Scott does give him room. Dario rides over the curb, loses the front end, gets into him, and bye-bye.
Well, that's in slow motion. Initially, we thought Scott Sharp might be able to get it going again. Not the case, so he's in the pits talking to our Vince Welch. We take no breaks here in IndyCar racing, and neither does our coverage as we go side by side at the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg.
Back at the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, pit strategy now becoming a factor here for some of the lead cars. I am in the Brian Herta pit, Jerry Punch, and we are being told that Brian Herta may be able to go to lap 61, and if they do, they're going to try to roll the dice and make it all the way on that one more stop on fuel. Now, we told you Dario Franchitti had fueling problems. They are hoping to get to lap 65, and if they can get it full of fuel, that would be his last stop, but they hope they can get that far. They may not make it. They're not sure how much they got in on the last stop now. So pit strategy unfolding here in the final 50 laps.
All right, thank you, Dr. Punch. As he pointed out in his little demonstration, they did replace the fueling coupling, but Gilles, that's got to be, these things don't come equipped with gas gauges.
Yeah, a lot of anxiety there because it could really ruin Dario's race if the next stop doesn't go smoothly.
So there is Dario Franchitti, number 27. He goes through. He is currently sitting in third. Ahead of him is Brian Herta and Dan Weldon, teammates. And last time Andretti Green went 1, 2, and 3, they finished that way at Nazareth last year with Weldon getting the victory. But Brian Herta and Dan Weldon have not pitted since lap 16, so they are due, as Dr. Punch pointed out, any time.
The fastest guy in that line is without a doubt Dario Franchitti. He's been held up by both Dan Weldon and Brian Herta. But you have to say, though, I think Brian Herta right now is trying to save as much fuel as he can to go as far as he can on this tank of gas to almost guarantee that he only has one more stop.
Well, we talked about the possible troubles in Andretti Green with frustrations in the race in Phoenix. If you're Dario Franchitti, and as Gilles right, he's running so strong, don't you let these guys, don't they just move over and let him go?
Well, you know, it doesn't work out that way. I tell you what, as soon as you put the helmet on, even though you're friends within the race, team, and everything of that nature, it just does not work that way because you say, yeah, I'll help you out, I'll do this for you. But Jill, as you know, I'll tell you, you put the helmet on, and there's just absolutely no way you're going to maybe help the guy out.
Let's check in with Vince Welch.
Patrick Carpentier having a good run, and they've initially, remember, we reported that they complained at the beginning because they were having a little bit of a throttle stick problem, but that has not been an issue. It has freed itself up, and Carpentier running up in the front of the pack. He's going to come in for his last pit stop in about 4 laps. That's the target, and they believe they can get to the end with this one last stop, guys.
All right, thank you, Vince. Patrick Carpentier also pitting last time at 16, so if he comes in at 60, he's got to go 40 laps, Jill. Obviously hoping for a yellow.
Yeah, if he's got to go 40 laps, he's either got to save a lot of fuel, and the way you do that is by backing off the gas early in the end of the straight and turning your fuel mixture down, I guess you can say, or he's got to hope for a lot of yellows. There's a lot of gambling going on here on this strategy, but that's street circuit racing for you. You have a lot of yellows that influence your thinking. You got to think on your feet, and some guys are very good at doing that. And we are obviously here in the dark trying to figure out what's going on.
Jill, Eddie Cheever running race strategy for Patrick Carpentier. So you know Cheever's been in a dogfight or two. And if you know Eddie Cheever at all, you also know he's not afraid to roll the dice. And he also believes that there are going to be yellows between now and the end that are going to provide them a little better fuel mileage that would allow Carpentier to make it to the finish.
He's got 2 situations, and Vince brings up a good point. He's got Alex Barron, the other teammate, sitting in 14th right now. He pitted at lap 39, so he obviously is not going to come in yet. And he's got Patrick Carpentier. So Gilles got 2 pieces in the chess puzzle. They're going to work them separately.
I think what Vince said there is interesting. I think Ed is a good gamble because I think there's a high probability of we getting a yellow before the race is over again. So it's a good gamble to take.
You know, as we were watching Patrick Carpentier, I'll have to tell you that when I watched this car earlier in the weekend when it came off the trailer, it didn't look like he was that comfortable with it, and obviously qualifying didn't go well, as we saw Vitor Mir coming in right now for the stop. Remember, the fuel probe has always been a problem sometimes with some of these teams. Those 4 Firestone Firehawk tires have changed. And those are called what we call stickers. Fresh tires have not been used. You can see how they're glossy.
They were very skittish coming off the pits. I think that first lap out of the pits on sticker tires, it's like driving on an ice rink. And here he's trying to see, he's trying to take the stickers off by pushing the throttle and the brake at the same time and locking up the front wheels.
All right, well, this is interesting. Somewhat of a litmus test with Vitor Mir running in 15th place. His last pit was at 16, so he is in the same boat, or was in the same boat with Brian Herta and Dan Weldon and Scott Dixon and Patrick Carpentier.
So watch for those guys probably be in within a lap or 2. But for Mir, the question will be now, can he find a yellow and make it to the end?
He obviously didn't do as good a job as these other guys saving fuel because he had to stop before everybody else.
Well, we want to thank our broadcast partners, La Quinta Inns, AutoZone, Yamaha Motorcycles, IFC Films, Dust to Glory, and Valvoline for their support of ESPN's side-by-side coverage of today's race, the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. With 58 laps complete, Brian Herta continues to lead. He got the pole, and he has been recycled through, but he is back in front. We'll be back to St. Petersburg. You watch the whole thing as we take you side by side. Your top 5 at the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg looks like this. Brian Herta, Dan Weldon, Dario Franchitti, all Andretti Green teammates. And then it is Scott Dixon and Patrick Carpentier. And it looks like Patrick Carpentier is set to make a pit.
Well, we're about to start a round of pit stops here. And we see Patrick Carpentier is coming in at this very lap. And I think when this round of pit stop is over, we're going to have Dario Franchitti followed by Ryan Briscoe.
You saw that they held the car for just a split second longer, and that was to get the full fuel load in the car, but they made no chassis adjustments. Carpentier said the car is fantastic. Let's go to Jamie Little.
Well, guys, Scott Dixon is expected to stop in. On the next lap, he's making his way around. The last time he pitted was lap 16, so he's on a similar fuel strategy as the Andretti Green guys. He thinks that getting fuel and tires right now will take him to the end of the race. And guys, remember, it's been 27 races since Chip Ganassi has had a win. Right now, all 3 drivers are in the top 10.
Well, that's good news for Chip Ganassi, and we've got some more pitting strategy going on. So Brian Hurd is coming in, and Dixon. This is really going to shake things up, and this may be the end of it for pitting for them as we check back in with Jamie Little.
Guys, it's 4 tires, fuel. Scott Dixon is on a roll. He's ready to make it happen. He was the last driver to win the race. For Chip Ganassi, they hope to get the race off. Dr. Bunch?
Brian Herta, Jeff Braun, the fueler. He's the critical man. They are waiting on the fuel. We have got to get it full of fuel. 30 gallons in. 12.4 seconds, and Herta and Dixon will race down pit road. Dixon beating down pit road.
Scott Dixon checking in with a 10.2. Brian Herta a 12.4. So we talked about how important pits were, gentlemen. Manny and Barron, went 39 laps plus 3 pace laps before they pitted. Now that includes 12 laps of yellow, but that gives you an idea. So Gilles, they're pretty much right on. They've done their math. They think they can run the rest of the way with no more pit stops.
Yeah, and watch out for Dan Weldon coming in on the next lap and Dario Franchitti taking the lead.
This is Dan Weldon coming in the pits, just like Gilles said. Other than your pick to win it, you are dead on today, my friend.
I think I might change my winner pick again.
Usually wait till the white flag for that. And you see Dan Weldon go to a tear-off. The 26 Klein Tool car comes in, and that's where Jerry punches.
And we'll watch them. Remember, the critical member here is the fueler. They've got to get it full of fuel. He's burning a little more fuel than his teammates. Tires are on. Fuel nozzle. They're waiting. Franchitti in turn 4. Now, Franchitti should be coming down pit road next time. 11.9, and Weldon is down and away.
Well, not quite as good as Scott Dixon, but a clean pit stop, and so he is away with 63 laps complete. So they are banking on 37 laps to the end with no more pits.
Be interesting to see where they all came out between Scott Dixon, Dan Weldon, and Brian Herta, in what order they're going to sort themselves out after this pit stop. We know that Scott Dixon passed Brian Herta in the pits, but I don't know where Dan Weldon is. And here's Franchitti coming in already.
So Dario Franchitti comes in on lap 64. His last pit was at 36. So Franchitti, our momentary leader, has come down pit row. Dario Franchitti, number 27, and it goes back to Ryan Briscoe as our leader, and we go back to Dr. Jerry Punch.
And remember, Franchitti's had a problem with the fueling nozzle, a backup nozzle. Can they get it full of fuel? Corey McLish leans on that nozzle to get it full. Fuel still flowing. Now it's venting. They hold. They got to get it full of fuel. Now, he's down the way. 13.6 seconds of slower stop because of the fueling.
Dario Franchitti obviously frustrated because Gilles de Ferran was frustrated. You were wondering why they weren't cutting him loose.
I don't understand what happened there, because typically when you see the fuel coming out of the vent, and you saw that on the vent holes, right, that liquid moving around there, it's time for you to pull out. So maybe they still have the same problem.
Well, you're going to say that must have that, and it's probably better leave the guy in there for an extra 2 seconds in pit lane than have to bring him back in when he's actually out on the racetrack.
Here it is one more time.
Watch the fuel probe go in there right now, and we're talking about the hose that he's actually holding, which is on the outside. Watch for the fuel to start spurting up it just as we wait another second or two. And see, here there's an indication right now on his radio. There's somebody watching for that on the team. They're saying, leave it in, let's be sure, and then he'll tell him to pull out. And watch his foot go moving very quickly as those tires are spinning. And Joe, I used to love that. 10,300 RPM and drop the clutch. Something like you used to do in your dad's car.
Yeah, what I didn't used to like was iffy pit stops.
So we reshuffle the deck with 66 laps complete. Here is Ryan Briscoe, your leader, with Thomas Schechter in second. Darren Manning now sits in third. So target Chip Ganassi, as Jamie Little pointed out, looking for that victory. They are now running 1 and 3.
So Ryan Briscoe still needs to do one more stop before the race is over. But he's doing a great job there in the lead.
You've got your first 4 guys right now probably needing to do that. Briscoe, Schechter, Manning, and Tony Kanaan, all pitting in the last 36 to 39. Probably will not make it to the end.
And you can see also the pace of the race picked up again, because they got Brian Herta, who was leading, was really trying to save fuel. And he was doing an average of 99.5 miles an hour, average all the way around the racetrack. And Ryan Briscoe just did a lap at over 101 miles an hour. So he's in a totally different rhythm. He's trying to push as hard as he can, because he's trying to put as much daylight between himself and the next group that just stopped.
So the next group that will be pitting includes Ryan Briscoe, Thomas Schechter, Darren Manning, and Tony Tony Kanaan. Their last pit came at 39, so whether they decide to run it as far as they can, Jill, or pit early and to try to reshuffle to get track placement, it'll certainly be a key.
And you can tell he's leaving no room for error. They're pushing as hard as he can. Oversteer coming off every turn.
Let's check in quickly with Dr. Jerry Punch.
And down in the Dario Franchitti pit, we'll check in with team manager Kyle Moyer. And Kyle, we saw you waiting deliberately on the fuel. Did you get it full?
No, we didn't still. There's something wrong inside the tank. We dumped 22. We should have dumped 30. So we're going to have to pit again. So we just told him to go as hard as he can. And we're just going to try to get what we can out of this. I mean, second race in a row, we got the best car. And we just can't get ourselves right. So, you know, we're trying as good as we can. And maybe something will work out.
A lot of frustration down here, guys. That's why they went. You saw it sucking the fuel back out the vent hose, and it was not full of fuel, according to the computers here in the pit.
Well, Jill talked about being frustrated on iffy pit stops. That has got to be the quintessential frustration, knowing that you have to come back in again.
Yeah, that's very frustrating news for Dario Franchitti, and it's hard for the driver at this point because you're all pumped up. There is frustration, there is aggression, all mixed up. But what Dario has to do now, he has to calm down. Remember that he still has a job at hand. He has to drive hard, has to drive fast, and get to the end of that race, and not get too caught up with what's going on, get frustrated, and hit the fence somewhere.
As we're on board with Dario Franchitti, a quick reminder: the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg post-race winner chat. ESPN.com keyword IRL. Well, with 69 laps complete, it is a rookie who leads them around this gorgeous course of Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg.
Hey guys, just got some good information from Al Firestone. He said on that last pit stop when Scott Dixon came in on after 62 laps, he said the tires looked really good. They were only 75% worn, 25% left. That could be the reason we're hearing when Ryan Briscoe comes in, he could do fuel only for the rest of the race.
I'll be amazed if that happens, Jamie. I mean, there's nothing like a new set of tires. I don't care how much tire you have left. Those first 20 laps on a tire, they're much faster than the last 20 laps on any set of tires.
And Scott, isn't it quicker to put tires on than fuel in?
Well, they're probably not going to need tires. You're absolutely right. I mean, he's going to need a full load of fuel to probably get to the end. And there's 30 gallons of these things, but the guys can generally do those tires faster. So, and I agree with Jill. I mean, I just always love new tires. And when it comes down to a battle at the very end, a shootout, you're going to want, as they call them, new canoes.
Ryan Briscoe should pit around lap 78 if our calculations are correct and the abacus is working right. But I agree with you guys. That might be a little bit cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs to not go with tires. He comes in for a pit just to get the fuel only. And here comes Thomas Schechter as we go on board with Schechter, the Pennzoil Panther machine. And not known as a street racer, but guys, he is driving the wheels quite literally off that thing.
Driving a very controlled race, you know, being aggressive when it's necessary, you know, keeping everything controlled, and he's now running second, and a very strong second, by the way. I mean, he's having an A+ race so far.
Oh, he's having a great day. I got to tell you, I thought earlier in the day that I didn't give him to half distance, to be honest with you, just because of his pure aggression. And you know, well, seriously, the guy is so fast.
Give me some credit.
He is so fast all the time, but he just sometimes doesn't get there. But right now, I'll give him an A+. He's doing a great job.
I love that. And watch this. 150 miles an hour through there, down 2 gears. I have to say, I just looked at it and I thought, I might want to go back. But that was a 5-second thought that I had. That's it.
Well, while you guys are debating the merits of Thomas Schechter, let's go back a year in the life of Thomas Schechter, 2 events in to the INDYCAR Series as we review his year thus far. And all started out with Homestead Miami, looks so strong, and this is where we got our first Gilles de Baron ay-ay-ay.
Ay-ay-ay.
There's nothing he can do about that one, not his problem.
Had a great race up to that point during that day, no fault of his own.
Phoenix International Raceway, it all came to a crashing end once again on March 19th, and Thomas Schechter now looking for redemption right now on a street course.
And the shadows you saw there really play havoc on the driver because you're going from the daylight to the shadow area, and as the day goes on further here, those shadows will get worse.
Thomas Schechter obviously remembered to roll his clock forward because he is driving unbelievably well right right now. Scheckter currently sitting in second place as we check in with Vince Welch.
Well, it's interesting on the radio, you know, the engineer and the team manager often play the role of cheerleaders. John Barnes, one of the owners and team manager here on this team, and the engineer David Cripps, as Scheckter came by on the front straight, they said, keep chugging, big dog, you are awesome. So they're doing a little cheerleading out here as well as he gets ready for his final pit stop in just a couple of laps.
All right, thank you very much, Vince. As we look at the board, Dario Franchitti is probably in the best shape fuel-wise, guys, but we got that report earlier from Dr. Jerry Punch that they are not going to be able to go. They're going to have to bring him in. That takes us down to Dan Weldon, who pitted at lap 63, and Scott Dixon at 62. Of those two guys, if you have to put your money on someone, Scott Goodyear, who you take?
Well, maybe I would take Dixon. Aggression, wants to get it done, hasn't won in a long time, and as you know, Jill, if you haven't won, I don't know, you dig down just a little deeper inside to get the job done.
Yeah, but Dan Weldon's got track position right now over Scott Dixon, and he's a few seconds up the road here, so I don't know, Scott. I guess that's why we watch this racing, to find out what's going to happen.
There is Dan Weldon, number 26. He won our first race, Homestead, Miami. Can he make it 2 for Andretti Green this young season? And there's number 6, Sam Hornish Jr. I'll tell you what, you bring up a good point. He has track position, something that has not been yielded easily here at St. Petersburg.
So I guess we're trying to predict here what's going to happen in a few laps, that he might end up back in the lead. Right. As soon as Ryan Briscoe, Thomas Scheckter, all these guys have to pit for fuel.
The wild card, though, being Thomas Engate, who pitted at lap 45.
What happened there? Dan Weldon just passed Sam Hornish in a very strange place in the racetrack. I think Sam Hornish...
just maybe slid high or lifted.
Oh, he seems to have slowed down, but you know, he picked the speed back up again, so he might have made just a little mistake and slid wide.
And that really tells you how much these cars are at the limit, Jill, as we both know, because we've driven these things. You're sliding these cars around the turn, and just one small miscue or diving into the turn maybe about a foot deeper than you should do, or missing your turning point as he's going by it right there, his apex, as we call that. If you miss that by 6 inches sometimes, it's just enough to push the front of the car off.
And that will happen more and more as the race goes on. The brakes get worn out, the tires get worn out, and here's Scheckter coming in.
Let's go down to Vince Welch.
Thomas Scheckter getting fuel in the Firestone Firehawks. There will be no chassis adjustments or tire pressure changes. The car is great, and Scheckter is off. A very smooth stop for Thomas Scheckter, and he is off and running.
All right, thank you, Vince. Thomas Scheckter now back out in front. I'll tell you what, I don't know if track position is going to play into his corner here, but if he keeps this thing running for another 24 laps, a great race.
That lap for Thomas Scheckter is crucial, and I think Ryan Briscoe is going to stop now because his out lap is going to be very important to see if he's going to come out in front or behind Ryan Briscoe. Typically, the guy that stays on the racetrack comes out ahead because he's got a lap on one tires against a lap on both tires that Thomas Scheckter is doing.
Ryan Briscoe has not pitted since lap 36, and here he comes. So he goes 40 laps. As he comes down pit road, we check in with Jamie Little.
Well, guys, they psyched us out a little bit. They had the tires out. It looks like they're only going to change the rear left tire and fuel. He's your leader coming in, guys. He started position 10 today. He's led the majority of this race.
I guess we'll see what the...
Oh, that's interesting. Let's go into Dr. Punch.
Tony Kanaan, what should be the final pit stop of the day. Their outside rear tire changer went down early with a sprained knee, Steve Price. They have Don Skinner from the Weldon team now changing outside rears, trying to get it full of fuel. Tony Kanaan waiting and waiting on the fuel. Final scheduled stop. All the time here on the field. Over 15 seconds to stop here for the reigning series champion.
Wow, 16 seconds for Tony Kanaan. And as Dr. Punch pointed out earlier throughout the day, the fuel problems continue to haunt the 11 car of Tony Kanaan. And you know what? I cannot believe what I saw with Ryan Briscoe not changing his tires.
Yeah, that was a very strange decision. And here he is right in front of Dario Franchitti. He's on a heavy fuel load. That's why he's trying to get around Ryan Briscoe. No. Ryan Briscoe's got a full fuel load of fuel. That's why he's much slower than Dario right now. And Dario needs to get in front of him.
So it's Thomas Inga who goes to the front of the pack with Tony Kanaan being shuffled back, but it's Inga, and look at Dario Franchitti trying to get a drive around young Ryan Briscoe. Briscoe, number 33, ahead of the 27 car. Can he hold him off? Well, you saw this on side-by-side just moments ago. Thomas Scheckter putting it nose first into the tire. You see on the right side there, Thomas Scheckter absolutely dejected as we go to a full course yellow. Initially it looked like it would just been a local yellow, which would allow them to keep racing. The pits are closed, but gentlemen, I'll tell you what, Dario Franchitti should thank Thomas Scheckter, go down and give him a hug after the race, or better yet, send his wife, Ashley Judd, down to give him a hug. But Dario Franchitti and Ryan Briscoe really benefit from this.
I think the biggest benefactor from this was Ryan Briscoe, actually. He's going to end up in the lead after this, and he does not need to stop anymore until the end of the race. But he's got the old tires.
There you go.
And I wonder if the guy behind him, who is going to be his teammate, Darren Manning, has new tires or old tires. Very confusing on this.
You know, the key thing is, we talked about it before, you love to have the grip of the new tires. If you watch Thomas Scheckter right there, I think he's looking for a way to get back over the track so he can actually walk back into the pits. You saw Johnny Rutherford right there driving the SSR pace car. I bet you Thomas Scheckter wishes that he was actually on the track behind them right now.
Yeah,
Let me ask you this, gentlemen, and you guys have been so good with calculations.
No, we haven't.
Can they leave Dario Franchitti out now if they run under yellow? Can he conserve enough gas since they only put in 20 to get him to make it?
Watching Kyle Moyer's interview, you have to say no. You have to say that he probably needs one more stop. I guess we'll see that pretty soon coming up here. But
okay, let me ask you this: if you knew that the man in front of you, Ryan Briscoe, was on old tires,
right,
and you could take a chance and possibly dial what you hate to do, dial the fuel down, would you take that chance?
How do you know I hate to do that?
I just know you like to run full fuel.
Well, it really varies. I think they had a big problem on the fuel.
All right, let's check in at pit row. First up, Jamie Little.
Well, guys, the Chip Ganassi teams, all three of them have gambled with their tires today. They've only changed tires one time on all three teams. Granted, they did change the right-left or the rear-left tire on Ryan Briscoe. Now, Darren Manning, last stop, did not change tires, but you guys, the Firestone guys, are saying good things about it. Dr. Punch?
And Dario Franchitti had no choice, guys. They couldn't conserve enough fuel to make it the rest of the way, so they're going to come in and put about 5.5 gallons, 6 gallons in, try to get as much as they can. And that's what he needed to get to the finish here. But this yellow will break for Franchitti not having to pit under the green.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Punch. So this really changes things up quite a bit, gentlemen. I know Gilles over here scratching his head trying to figure it out. Scott's trying to figure it out. Put yourself in Dario Franchitti's situation now. Can you do anything about this?
Well, Dario's going way down the order, so he's got a lot of work to do. So the biggest issue in my mind now is Ryan Briscoe and Darren Manning with enough fuel to go to the end, but old tires, and Dan Weldon and Tony Kanaan running third and fourth with enough fuel to go to the end and new tires.
Absolutely. Let's check in with Vince Welch.
John Barnes, one of the team owners for Pennzoil Panther, and a difficult day for Thomas Scheckter. You guys were having such a good positive run.
Yeah, I think he was doing a great job, and the crew did too. The car was awesome. Dave Cripps came up with a great setup for the car. And it was there. I don't know what happened. We haven't had a chance to talk to him yet.
Didn't get any feedback from Thomas at all?
Not that I can talk about here on the TV.
How about the other driver of the Pennzoil Panther crew and the Rockstar machine, Thomas Inga?
Tomas did a great job. They had a trouble with the fueling rig the first stop and made him make an extra stop. So they moved him from, I think at that time he was fifth, they moved him back to last. But he'll get back up there. He's a good kid. He really is.
Shown a good run today on the road courses. Let's go upstairs.
All right, thank you very much, Vince.
Well, that's, we talked about that section of the racetrack earlier in the race where it's narrow, you can't really pass, but it's sure a place where you can make a mistake. That to me looked like driver error. What do you think?
Well, the other side too, we talked about the shadows, Jill. When you come out of the racetrack and you're trying to drive as hard as you can after a pit stop, cold tires still, but those shadows play a big part, as you well know. It just plays tricks with your eyes. So did that play a part of it? But if it did, the key thing is that other drivers are not having that problem.
Well, 19 laps to go at the inaugural running of the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. You're not going to want to miss this. It should be a very exciting conclusion. We'll be back after this message from your local cable operators. Briscoe's your leader. It is the inaugural running of the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, the 1.8-mile street course. We're going 100 laps, and we've completed 82. And it has been a great race thus far. Only 4 yellow flags, and they've been exciting, though. Kept everyone on their toes. As we take a look at our race summary, it all started off with this get-together by A.J. Foyt IV and Elio Castro Neves early on in the race. Both men were okay. Then Scott Sharp gets tangled up with Dario Franchitti in the corner on lap 40. And just recently, it was Thomas Scheckter having a great run on lap 78. Puts it into the tire wall. His day is done.
Well, my money now is on Tony Kanaan. I was just looking at everything. He was stopped on lap 76. He's got a new set of tires, and he's running fourth. Well, Elios, get out in there. Didn't you just do the race summary? So you saw what happened to him.
All right.
And for the first 2 guys are on old tires, and I cannot stress how much difference there is in grip when you're driving an old set of tires against a new set of tires. So I think we're on for some fireworks over here.
Well, it looks like Chip Ganassi is rolling the dice and hopes it comes up Yahtzee. If it does, he's going to look like a genius for having so much faith in his Firestone Firehawks.
For sure.
If it doesn't, we're going to have a lot of questions.
Firestone tires are absolutely the best, but the key thing as a driver right now, though, Todd, is they made the decision in the pits about the tires.
Well, Ryan Briscoe running wide here on the
green flag is out, and remember, Ryan Briscoe, a test driver for Toyota. He has the Formula One experience the last couple of years. Can the young rookie pull it off for Target Chip Ganassi? They've got their full contingent of cars, and it is Briscoe and Manning 1 and 2. Dan Weldon, Tony Kanaan checking in 3 and 4.
Tony Kanaan having a quick look there at Dan Weldon, and watch this straight now because he looks very close to me.
Now here's the problem, though. Tony Kanaan is probably a faster driver than Dan Weldon, and Weldon's going to let him go on through.
He absolutely opened up the door for him, didn't really try to confront him at all. We talked about that situation in Phoenix where Danny was having a bit of a problem with Dario Franchitti.
And watch Tony now. He's got a lot more grip than those 2 guys ahead of him. You can tell the way the car just comes off the turn instead of fishtailing all the way up down the straight.
And that brings a great point, Joe. And they're braking right now. He tried this before, remember?
Look at this.
Nope. Nope, man, they're bumping him.
Oh, you got to be kidding me. He puts a Firestone tattoo on the side of the number 10 of Darren Manning, and Manning looks like he's going to lose another position. So Manning right now has got to be thinking, what is going on? Andretti Green jumps up 2 positions, and Dario Franchitti, no, it's Koski Metzer, number 55. He tries to make it another one, and he causes a major incident as he tucks it in there. Scott Dixon, can he get it running again? Look at that driving ability. That's what I'm talking about.
Hey, trust me, you just want to be doing that at the end of the race after you win, not halfway through the race.
You know, and at that restart, he was certainly starting to move up. Dixon was starting to make some moves going into turn 1. He knew that he had a fast car. You see your teammates up there, you got to think, man, I got to get there.
So Ryan Briscoe and Tony Kanaan 1 and 2, Gilles.
Question in my mind now, did that incident damage Tony Kanaan's car or not? If it did not, Ryan Briscoe better hold on because he's coming. If it did, then he's got a problem.
Tony Kanaan pitted at lap 76, the same lap as Ryan Briscoe. Here's the corner that it happened one more time.
Diving down the inside, look at that. He just keeps on the, drives right over the curbing himself. He gets back on the gas right now. That's a, pardon me, excuse me, I'm coming through, guys.
Well, while Darren Manning was recovering, he loses another position.
Darren Manning saying, I have none of this, so he turns in like Tony is not even there. They touch, they both survived the incident, which is amazing to me. There you go.
They're okay with that. We'll change the tires later, Tony. So it comes down to this. It is a 14-lap shootout with Ryan Briscoe, the rookie, and the defending series champion, Tony Kanaan. Not an enviable spot for Ryan Briscoe.
I tell you, the race totally changes at this time because there's no more pit stops. You don't have to save fuel anymore. You don't have to save anything. So you're all out all the way to the end of the race. And here comes Tony right on top of Ryan Briscoe. The pace that you drive at this time of the race is totally different than what you do at the beginning of the race.
And we've got a 2-car overshoot. That is Thomas Inge, number 2, and Sam Hornish Jr. It looks like Sam was trying to pull away there. It's not going to happen because they are linked together right now.
No, that's tow truck style, and you're not going to go very far with that. Yeah. Be interesting to see if they keep this as a local yellow, though, or if they go full course yellow. If it is a full course yellow, you take some laps, you don't have to run hard on your tires. That benefit, as you know, Jill, is for Ryan Briscoe with those old tires.
Absolutely. But I think they're going to stay local there because they're pretty far off down the runoff area. And it would be nice for us if they stayed local because you would make for a more interesting race.
They're trying to keep them separate. Looks like Thomas Inge wants to have a word. And we are back on board with Scott Dixon. This has happened moments ago. And there's Koski Matsura on the inside, number 55. He gets together with Dixon, cleans him out. Brian Herder goes around. There's debris on the track. And Dixon gets up and going again.
Yeah, well.
So Sam Hornish Jr. and Thomas Inge, the latest victims, go out, but fortunately it's a local yellow, which means they are completely off the track.
It's a contact sport, like I told you earlier.
You said it was going to be a street fight.
And let me bring you up to one point. After last race, there was only 3 guys who are now going to a full course yellow. Only 3 guys that have completed all the laps so far this year. The only guy remaining on the racetrack right now that has done that is Tony Kanaan. Because both the Penske cars were out. Those were the other 2 drivers. Will he repeat like he did last year and finish every lap?
I just had a thought. Restarts.
Yeah, man.
How good is Ryan Briscoe as a rookie on his restart ability?
Well, not only the rookie factor, but new tires versus old tires. Old tires and Ryan Briscoe trying to put the power down, coming out of the last turn is going to be crucial on the first come-around lap for the restart.
This is getting more interesting by the minute here.
Ryan Briscoe has the weight of the world on his tail right now as we are looking at Sam Hornish Jr. on the left, number 6, and Thomas Inge, the Rockstar car, on the right. Here's how it happened.
See them on the right-hand side there. There's already been some contact because there's a lot of parts being broken there. The front wing and nose cone is actually stuck in between the wing and the left rear tire of Sam Hornish's car. There's no way that one's getting separated.
I think that incident started way early when with Koski Matsura slowing down there all of a sudden on the right.
As they extract those 2 vehicles from one another, the Rockstar of Thomas Inge on the right and the Team Penske ride of Sam Hornish Jr. We'll take our last side-by-side break. You'll see everything. Don't worry about that. We'll stop yapping for a moment. When we come back, the conclusion of the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Here's your situation at the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Your leader is that man, number 33, Ryan Briscoe. He is a rookie on the INDYCAR Series, and he is being followed closely under yellow by Tony Kanaan, the defending series champion. Dan Weldon, Dario Franchitti, and Brian Herta. Andretti Green goes 2, 3, and 4, and 5. Coming up, Sports Center. All your information on a day in sports. Well, I'll tell you what, Ryan Briscoe's got to feel great to be out in front. But he has just got a mean machine behind him.
I guarantee you that's not what he's thinking right now. He is actually thinking about the restart, trying to keep his tires clean. At this time of the race, there is a lot of rubber around the racetrack. And when you run slow like this, you get a lot of pickup. And that really messes up your tires, and you lose all your grip for the first few turns until they get cleaned up again. So that's why you see the guys wiggling left and right, both to try to warm the tires up and to try to keep the tires clean. But you know, Tony is an experienced cat.
Well, let's remind our viewers that Ryan Briscoe did not get new tires on his last pit, which came at lap 76 as we go down to pit row with Jamie Little.
Well, Chip Ganassi is the owner, as we said earlier, but he certainly has a knack for picking very talented drivers. Chip, you found Ryan in the offseason. What did you see in him?
Well, Jamie, he was one of these guys, young kid, a lot of Formula 3 and 3000 experience. He was driving for the Toyota Formula 1 team as a test driver, and so he's got that big horsepower experience that a lot of times we look for in this series.
Talk about the rolling of the dice you guys have been doing today, even messing with us with the tires and your fuel strategy. Tell us about that. It seems like it's so far paying off.
So far it's paying off. You know, like I said in the beginning, there's a lot of ways to run these road races, a lot of different strategies. And, you know, the one we planned on today just happened to work out. The yellows fell the right way, and we have been in a good position here, you know, with 10 or so to go. So we'll see what happens.
All right, Chip Ganassi running up front. Dr. Punch is with the birthday boy, Kim Green.
Yeah, he's 51 years old today. Kim Green down here in the Andretti Green pits. And Kim, you've got your series champion chasing their rookie. Can you handle him?
Well, you know, he's obviously a very, very good driver. And we've put Tony in some difficult situations, an injury in the pits and a bad pit stop. So he's worked really hard, stayed focused. The guys have regathered themselves behind the pit wall. We've done a great pit stop. We've got a good car. He knows what to do. Hopefully we can get a few more than just Tony past the red and white car in first position. But it's been a thrilling race for everybody, and what a great crowd.
Could be a nice birthday present for you too as well.
Be an awesome birthday present. Thank you.
By the way, Dario Franchitti just radioed Tony Kanaan and said you got to get Briscoe on cold tires. Let's check in now with Vince.
Dan Weldon is currently running third, but he is complaining of a long break, and that means that he doesn't have much brake, and he's having to hit that brake pedal well before he really wants to stop. So that's going to be an issue in these last 10 laps. And Brian Herta, who's running fifth, is complaining of a loose race car. So that would lead me to believe, Gilles de Ferran, that it doesn't look good for either Weldon or Herta, two drivers in the top 5.
No, it doesn't. I think this looks good for Tony Kanaan, and my heartbeat is raising at the second here as they come to the green flag.
Remember, Tony Kanaan got the black flag for that incident during the pits as we are down to the final 10 laps. It is Ryan Briscoe, the rookie, out in front. Tony Kanaan sits in second, and then Dan Weldon, Dario Franchitti, and Brian Herta. Darren Manning has dropped back to 6th place, but this will be very key, maybe one of the most important restarts of Ryan Briscoe's young career.
Indeed, he's got to get that one right, and this is the key right now. He's coming into that last turn. Let's watch this.
Tony got a good run coming off that turn.
Tony's got a really good run down the inside here. Tony's trying to go around the outside. Did he make it?
Nope.
No. Oh, yes.
There you go.
So Briscoe holds off the defending series champion. Give the rookie some credit from Australia.
It's not finished yet. It's not
and
finished
here comes
yet.
Tony Kanaan to the inside. Briscoe holding him off.
I'll tell you something right now, though, guys. That's not going to work. Ryan Briscoe using the whole track, blocking as he's doing, not keeping his line. He did it once going down the front stretch, a second time right there. I don't think that he's going to be able to stay on the track without a penalty.
I think the officials are not going to like that at all, Scott. I think you're totally right. That was not a cool move because Tony was already on the inside and he pushed him against the wall on the inside.
9 laps to go. Ryan Briscoe, number 33 year leader. How long can he hold on? Tony Kanaan, they come together. And it's Briscoe into the wall, and that time he paid the price. Tony Kanaan will take over the lead, but will we stay under a local yellow? Chip Ganassi not happy there. Is it a situation that he had to do that because of his tires?
Yeah, and
he paid the price for it. Excuse me, Joe. He paid the price for it because he ended up slowing up, and his teammate Danny Weldon has gone by. But another, pardon me, excuse me, move. But you know something? He was angry from being blocked those 2 times, so he was just going to barrel in there and say, "I'm coming through, buddy."
Absolutely. He tried to get Brian Briscoe by surprise. They touched, and then Weldon took advantage of the
situation. Here it is one more time. Ryan Briscoe's number 33.
Right now, the green car, 7-11. Tony Kanaan, new tires, can go in deeper into the turn with the braking situation. You see Ryan Briscoe being pushed off into the tire barrier right there. But as we ride along with Tony, listen, on the gas, stays late, hard on the brakes right now. Turning left, a bang, knocks the camera off for us. He's going to continue on, but in the end result, he's going to end up being passed by his teammate. Again, there you see Tony going on the inside. A nice little clip and a bang going off. You see Weldon coming through there at speed and momentum, slipping past Kanaan.
No injury to Ryan Briscoe other than his pride right there as Tony Kanaan moves ahead of him. So it is an AGR Andretti Green Team party, and they're taking all comers. It's Weldon, Kanaan, Franchitti, and Herta, left to battle it out with 8 laps to go.
Let's not forget that Dan Weldon's got a long brake pedal, which is not going to help him in the end of that straight, but that was heavy contact as well with Tony's car, so he may have a problem now in the car. I guess we'll see.
Well, that's actually 2 contacts when we think about it, isn't it, Joe, right now, because of the situation before, so that'll be interesting. That long brake pedal, though, as you know, Joe, what you end up doing is actually having to pump the brake pedal going into the turn, which he can do with his left foot and not take his foot off the right one on the gas pedal. Keep the motor going and speed going, but use that left foot to get that brake pedal off and hard for him going into the turn.
7 laps to go. Dan Weldon out in front as we ride on board with 2nd place. Tony Kanaan, as they came by the last time, a black flag was waved. We're checking to find out who it was for, but it is Dan Weldon out in front. And Tony Kanaan, we've just been told that it's Koski Matsura who got the black flag.
Let's watch the situation developing here with the back marker just in front of Dan Weldon. If he holds him up, that could cost him the lead. And Tony's not finished yet. I mean, he's pushing hard trying to stay with Dan.
Alex Barron is going to move over. Sorry, Todd. Alex Barron moves over. Very professional. Lets both those guys go through.
6 laps to go. We want to thank our broadcast partners, Ubisoft, Brothers at Arms, Mountain Dew, Bausch & Lomb, General Motors, Chevy, and ESPN Russell Racing Schools for their support of ESPN side-by-side coverage of today's race. Back to racing with 6 laps to go. It's Dan Weldon, number 26 out in front. His teammate, Tony Kanaan, number 11 behind him. How long can the boys at AGR coexist when the big prize is having to be divided 4 ways?
And as the race goes on, I'm telling you, Dan Weldon is going to make it more and more difficult for Tony Kanaan. I don't care if they're friends, teammates, or whatever. He's going to make it very difficult work for Tony to get by him. And he's going very fast right now. He's going as fast as he's been the whole race. So I don't know what he was complaining about the long brake pedal. It's definitely not slowing him down too much.
Or is he just sending in a story just to sort of get it distributed amongst his teammates? And, you know, they'll resort to anything these days, these guys, I think. But just look at the top 4 right now with Danny Weldon, Tony Kanaan, Dario Franchitti, Brian Herta. All cars that you spoke about before, Todd. Andretti green cars, and then Michael Andretti's son, Marco Andretti, who's the brightest young guy coming up in American racing right now, winning earlier today. What a great day for Michael Andretti.
No question about it. We have really been treated to a great day of racing here in St. Petersburg. And Scott, I'll ask you, because I know Gilles will change his mind with the white flag. Would you have thought if there was any chance that Dan Weldon would be leading the race with 5 laps to go?
Absolutely wouldn't. And, you know, he actually had that different pit strategy before, but they also did that last year when he wasn't running very fast, didn't have a fast car at the beginning at Richmond, came out on top and won that event. And, you know, here he's done it again. He's been one of the brightest guys coming up in this last year, taking a lot of experience from his other drivers that he had on the team that had a wealth of knowledge to draw from. But you know something? He's young, aggressive, only 26 years old, and he sets his sights on the Indianapolis 500. He'll be tough this year.
Give Gilles credit. He said that Tony Kanaan would definitely be someone to reckon with today. But going back to where the whole Briscoe-Kanaan incident, here's where Tony Kanaan really probably got a little bit perturbed at Ryan Briscoe.
See,
That's not his line, is it, Gilles?
Tony Kanaan was all the way down the inside already, and Ryan just kept pushing him to the inside.
And half a lap later, Tony says, I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly. He tries to surprise him down the inside, and Ryan turns in like Tony wasn't even there.
And Ryan had to have seen it.
Yeah, it's a silly incident, let me put it this way.
Tony Kanaan fortunate to still be up and running right now with 4 laps to go. He has a teammate to contend with. That is Dan Weldon, the winner of our first event in Homestead. And he is being chased closely by the defending series champ in number 11, Tony Kanaan. They are teammates, but I'm sure at this point, Michael Andretti's got to say, have at it, boys.
You know what comes to mind right now? This is a reversal of what we saw last year. It was always Tony doing most of the winning and Danny usually doing the chasing. But you know something, since the beginning of the season, it's been reversed.
They're going quicker and quicker and quicker. This pace is as quick as qualifying. They're pushing as hard as they can. And when you're pushing hard like this with only 3 laps to go, the likelihood of you making a mistake is enormous. So they're right on the limit here as on this closing laps.
Well, I think the fans are just about as excited as us, because looking at our broadcast booth, all these people in the front straightaway right now are all standing up because they know it's going to be fireworks right here at the end.
In fact, Dan Weldon just hit his fastest lap of the whole race 1 lap ago.
He's sandbagging that long break, isn't he?
Yeah, doesn't have a long break at all. Or if he does, he's a miracle worker. They're just going as fast as he's going.
With 3 laps to go, there's your leader, Dan Weldon. Some thought there's no chance for this young British driver on a street course. Today, he is proving them wrong. Coming up next, it will be Sports Center. But Tony Kanaan will chase him down if he can as we come around the hairpin turn one more time. It'll be 2 laps to go, and Tony Kanaan's going to have to be the miracle worker.
They're pushing so hard, they're leaving Dario Franchitti behind a little bit. Slowly but surely pulling away from Dario Franchitti here with 2 laps to go. Tony's not leaving it alone. I mean, he doesn't want to let it rest, does he?
I've got 2 great drivers here, Gilles Deferin and Scott Goodyear. Scott, you play the role of Dan Weldon, you play the role of Tony Kanaan. Scott, what would you do?
Danny Weldon does nothing except look forward right now, try and hit all his braking points, turning points, get on the gas as quickly as possible. If he does everything correctly, there will be no way that Tony Kanaan can get past him. Joe?
I have for once to agree with you, Scott. I think Scott is solely right. I mean, Dan, all he has to do is forget about Tony, and however difficult that may be, and look forward, and he'll be all right.
About Tony, because you saw me do the Ryan Briscoe.
Race car drivers are special people. They have mind control.
It is Dan Weldon and Tony Kanaan out in front. They have distanced themselves from their teammates, Dario Franchitti and Brian Herta in 3rd and 4th, and it is a 2-man race here in the
the fastest lap for Dan Weldon here. He's inch perfect. I mean, he's doing everything he should be doing. I have to say that when the chips are down, Dan Weldon is really producing the goods here.
So we gave you a mulligan and you actually decided you wanted to change your driver vote, Joe?
No, I don't want to change my driver vote, but you got to give Dan Weldon his due. I mean, he's been faultless this last 4 or 5 laps. As soon as he got the lead, he's going as fast as he did the whole race. And I'm telling you, right now he's really tired. The tires are getting worn out, the brakes are worn out, and for him to be able to do that is incredible.
While we have the chance, my thanks go out to Gilles DeFer, Scott Goodyear, two of the best in the business, and the finest pit reporters with Vince Welch, Jerry Punch, and Jamie Little as we watch Dan Weldon bring it around just 2 more turns, and it'll be Weldon's 2nd victory on the year.
Last turn for Dan Weldon.
Dan Weldon brings it down the front straightaway. Your winner at the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, Dan Weldon, picks up the victory, followed closely by his teammate, Tony Kanaan.
Well, I tell you, Tony, I think he's happy because of the team and everything, but I'm sure he's not too happy with the whole incident that they had to run off course and down here lost the lead. But I think a fantastic race for all those top 3 guys, really.
Happy birthday to that man, Andretti Green. There are your unofficial results. Weldon, Kanaan, Franchitti, and Herta. Andretti Green goes 1 through 4 with Mara, Dixon, and Rice. Coming up next, Sports Center, our next race, the Firestone Indy Japan 300, Saturday, April 30th, noon on ESPN. For my colleagues, I'm Todd Harris saying so long from the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Your winner, Dan Weldon. He owns the streets of St. Pete in 05.